welcome back to the Lumios Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today, well, we're doing the thing that every theorist has to do. It's like practically mandatory that if you're going to do Pokemon theories, you have to at some point do a theory touching on Crystal Onix. This is not an actual rule, but it's something that you see. You know, Pokemon theorists all the time are covering Crystal Onix, and I think that's so fun because Crystal Onix was in one episode of Orange Islands. It wasn't an important episode. Well, I guess it kind of was. I think that's the episode Tracy revealed that he had a Meryl. But either way, you know, it wasn't an earth-shattering episode. It's not like somebody caught the Crystal Onix. It's just this one episode that here we are 20 plus years later, and everybody's still like, remember Crystal Onix? Do you think Crystal Onix will be here? Hey, what about Crystal Onix? Have we considered that this might be what Crystal Onix is? All that stuff. You see it all the time. So, I'm throwing my hat in the ring, and I'm doing my own Crystal Onix video. That's what we're doing today. Okay, so what I think Crystal Onix is that it's actually not even an Onix. And now, bear with me for a moment, because it certainly is related to Onix. But so often, I see people proposing that Onix is, Crystal Onix rather, is a regional variant of Onix. You know, whether it's an Alolan form, or a Galarian form, Hisuian form, you know, these were the things that were always predicted. And every time there's a new generation announced, or a new game, new region, whatever, people go, well, hopefully this time we'll get a regional variant of Onix that's the Crystal Onix. Every time. Every time. Seriously. Every time. But I think we're looking at it all wrong. I don't think Crystal Onix is a regional variant of Onix. Like I said, I think it's actually a different Pokemon that is very much related to Onix. I think that Crystal Onix is what you could say a Paradox Pokemon. And now, bear with me before you go, oh my god, this is so stupid. Bear with me. Okay, so what do we know about Paradox Pokemon? Paradox Pokemon, while there are theories that they may just be imagined, the explanation of the game as of right now is that they are past or future forms of Pokemon. So we are supposed to believe that Great Tusk is the past ancestor to Donphan, and that Iron Treads is the future descendant to Donphan. That is what the game tells us about these Pokemon. So, you have these Pokemon that are different Pokemon. Great Tusk is not a Donphan, but it is related to Donphan, and it certainly, you can see it in its appearance. Oh, hey, that looks very, very similar to a Donphan. So that's definitely is something to consider when looking at Crystal Onix. You can tell it's related to Onix, and it absolutely is. Now let's hop over to something else that has to do with ancient Pokemon and look at Mega Evolution. I did a theory video a while back on Mega Evolution and its connection to Paradox Pokemon, and I'd say it's pretty concrete. Basically, what Mega Evolution is, whether or not you believe that Paradoxes are imagined or actual ancestors or descendants, what Mega Evolution is it's taking a Pokemon's genes and it is finding latent genes for things that are not being shown in the Pokemon, and it's bringing them out. So, like, for example, with Pinsir. Pinsir is a bug-type Pokemon. It cannot fly, but it has some kind of latent DNA in it that, in Mega Evolution, what this process is doing is it's taking that DNA and it's evolving that DNA to give it wings. But it's all related to its ancient form. And the connection here is that if you look at Salamence, Salaменce's evolution, Mega Evolution rather, is Mega Salamence. It's this thing that looks very, very similar to Roaring Moon, which is its past Paradox, so it's its ancestor. So the implication would be that there is still some latent DNA of Roaring Moon in Salamence that when Salamence Mega evolves is being pulled out and evolved further to give us Mega Salamence. And it is being evolved further with those genes, which is why Mega Salamence looks similar, but not exactly like Roaring Moon. So, if we take this, Steelix is a Pokemon that we can see Mega evolve. Steelix can Mega Evolve into Mega Steelix, and something you'll see when it Mega Evolves is that it'll have these crystals jutting out of it. Well, Crystal Onix, right? So what I'm imagining is that if we are to believe that this is what the Mega Evolution phenomenon does, pulls from latent genes in the Pokemon, then that means that Steelix and very possibly Onix, since they're in the same evolutionary line, has latent DNA for some kind of crystal-like rock structure in it. Perhaps this is because Crystal Onix is the ancient ancestor, and so it is pulling DNA, latent DNA, from Crystal Onix to bring forth this Mega Steelix. Now, you may be saying, okay, well then, why is Crystal Onix called an Onix? Because if it's a different Pokemon, if it's a past Pokemon, it would have a different name, like how Great Tusk isn't called Donphan or Dino Donphan, it's called Dinofan. They should have named it Dinofan. Doesn't matter. It's called Great Tusk. Completely different name. And I would say that that's actually, in a way, what's going on with Crystal Onix, you know? We see it referred to as the Crystal Onix because that's what these Pokemon are. They're basically like looking at these Pokemon and giving it a name based off of how it looks or how it acts, you know? Well, that's a Pokemon with very large hands there. So that must be hands, and then it's made of metal, so we'll call it Iron Hands. And that's how we're going to get its name. You know, so they see this Pokemon, they're like, you know, that's an Onix, but it's a Crystal Onix. And there you go, you have Crystal Onix. Again, it's just, you know, you have to think, maybe if this Pokemon was found in Paldea, they would have given it a different name, like Crystal Snake or something like that. But it wasn't. It was found in the Orange Islands, and so this is just the knee-jerk reaction of people. It's practically a legendary Pokemon in the Orange Islands, you know. No one had really seen it. It was just a rumor. So it makes sense that they would just kind of describe what they think it is, you know, in a similar way to how we have Wugtrio, a Pokemon that is its own Pokemon, being referred to as a Paldean Dugtrio, until eventually scientists were able to do some research on it and find, oh wait, genetically speaking, this Pokemon's an entirely different species, so it's not a Paldean Dugtrio. We have to come up for a new name for this thing, so we'll name it Wugtrio. You know, it's a similar thing. Crystal Onix, its name is Crystal Onix right now, but if it was studied by scientists, it would likely be called, you know, maybe Crystal Snake, or maybe they'd give it like an actual name. I'm not going to try to come up with one, because naming Pokemon is not my strong suit. But where does that leave us? Will we see a Paradox of Onix in DLC that is the Crystal Onix? No. No, we won't. Look, the fact is, again, this was one episode that hasn't been mentioned since, that aired over 20 years ago. We are never seeing this thing again. Certainly not in game. So, yeah. We're not going to see a Paradox of Onix, that's Crystal Onix, in Kitakami or at the Blueberry Academy. It's just not going to happen. But what we're doing here is we're taking this thing that appeared and we're trying to make sense of it with the knowledge we have about the Pokemon world today, because we certainly know a lot more about the Pokemon world than we did back when Orange Islands was airing. So I think this really could be it. To quickly recap, this would be a past version of Onix, and perhaps the reason it was able to stay a Crystal Onix and it never underwent evolution is because of how secluded this Pokemon was. Again, you have to remember that no one had really found this thing except for the character of the day's grandpa had seen it once. Well, but it wasn't until Ash and company helped out that more people saw it, and, you know, they got to see this Crystal Onix. And even at the end of the episode, it kind of goes away into hiding again, so it makes sense. It also is implied that it has a different typing, which Paradoxes have different typings from their present-day Pokemon. So again, that just kind of adds a little more to it. But yeah, that's why the Crystal Onix never, you know, evolved like these other Paradoxes did. Over time, Great Tusk became Donphan, but why didn't this Crystal Onix become it? Just because it got lucky, it was secluded. But I do think Crystal Onix is definitely an ancestor to Onix, and that's proven by Steelix Mega Evolving having a crystalline appearance when it does. Be sure to let me know what you think on this. You know, I wanted my own take on Crystal Onix. Again, apparently you can't be a Pokemon theorist without touching this. So here you go. This is my answer to it. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss all our future Pokemon videos. And until next time, I'll see all of you later.